I'm back. What's up, crew? Or if you're new to the channel, or if you haven't seen me in forever, because I know a lot of y'all haven't seen me in forever, Gecko Gaming here, and it's been a while, like a while, but I haven't abandoned the game or anything like that. I just had life going on, truth be told. I had a lot going on, and a lot of my close friends will agree to that. But a lot of y'all don't even care, let alone weren't there all the way back in OP01 when I was doing videos or anything like that. So yeah, without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and get into the deck profile, and it's gonna be on Gecko Moria, obviously, especially with the Niagara Falls Regional coming up in a couple of days. I will be commentating, so you will get to see this face all over again. And if you're watching this after I commentated that Niagara Falls event, then hey, welcome to the channel. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into the Gecko Moria deck profile video, as well as a live test match with one of my close friends, Phil, who plays Red Purple Law and topped recently in the Virginia Test Regional. So without further ado, like, share, subscribe, watch the deck profile, build your deck, submit it before regionals or locals if you're watching this afterwards. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get it. So before we get into explaining the deck profile, let's go ahead and explain the leader. So Gecko Moria kind of has a similar ability to OP01 Doflamingo. With 1 Don attached, when attacking, paying 2 Don, you trash 1 card from your hand, trash 2 from the top of your deck, and then you play up to 1 Thriller Bark with a cost of 4 or less from your trash. So this is really good, especially if you want to get a body out for 1 Don cheaper while still getting a swing in. Yeah, honestly, there's a lot you can do with this deck, and it's really fun. So let's go ahead and get into the essentials. So obviously you're required basically in this deck to run 4 Sindri. Sindri is really good, obviously, as a 2k counter, but it also has the turn 1 ability if you're going first, to if your leader is a Thriller Bark type, trash top 5 from your deck. So it's really good to fill up that trash so you can get that leader ability going even if you don't have Thriller Barks in your hand. Going into that, you also have 4 Perona. Perona is really good. For one, being a 2k counter, being a 4 cost 5k swinger, and on play, if your opponent has 5 or more cards in hand, they either trash a card from their hand, or you give up to one of your opponent's characters -3 cost during this turn. You really don't kind of see the second ability as much. A lot of people tend to get Perona off going first swing kind of thing to get your opponent to trash a card if they haven't played anything under turn 1. It's kind of a punish for that. It's also pretty good late game as well. Now also we're going to get into another essential, Dr. Hogback. Dr. Hogback is really good. It's a 4 cost 5k swinger as well, and has the on play ability to return 2 cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck in any order, and then add up to 1 Thriller Bark type card other than Dr. Hogback from your trash to your hand. So it's really good in the case of, for one, that it doesn't have a cost requirement for what you are adding back, which we'll get into why that's important in just a moment. But it's good because you're going to get all your Thriller Barks back as long as you return 2 cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck. And why that's important is because you get to get your Gecko Morias from trash to hand. So obviously Gecko Moria is going to be the boss of this deck. It is an 8 cost 9k swinger. On play, choose up to 1 character with a cost of 4 or less, and up to 1 character with a cost of 2 or less from your trash. Play 1 active and the other rested. This is really good, and there's a lot of beautiful combos that you can do with this to clear board on your opponent's side, or to gain advantage in your own way if need be. And Dr. Hogback is a really good card to get this out of your trash if you had to trash it for Gecko Moria ability, or if it got milled using Sindri, or whatever the case may be. This is really this is a card that you want to see in your hand when you get to that 8 Don 9 Don turn play for sure. And then also finally your main essential popper of this deck for sure is going to be Absalon. Absalon is a really good card as well. It's going to be your main essential popper that you can play off of Gecko Moria ability, and this also is the cost of 4 for 5k. On play, return 2 cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck in any order, same as Hogback, but in this case you get to pop a cost of 2 or less, and it's really good, especially early game if you want to get rid of some small bodies or that blocker that's really getting in your way. Now, other 4 ofs that are definitely going in this deck is going to be 4 Great Eruption. There's a reason why that's card banned, and 4 Ice Age. Great Eruption is a really phenomenal 1-cost event and was kind of slept on for earlier format. It is a 1-cost main ability, draw 1 card, and then you get to decide which one of your opponent's characters gets -2 during this turn. A lot of people would try to make the decision of minusing 2 beforehand, but you do get to draw before making that decision. And then it has a trigger, your opponent trashes a card from hand. No one really uses that much, so you use it for the first ability for sure. You combo that with your Absalon and other cards that we're going to get into in just a moment. And then Ice Age is going to help you to get rid of those bigger bodies. It has the 1-cost, give up to one of your opponent's characters -5, and its trigger is to pop an opponent's cost of 3 or less. That trigger really isn't used as much, but that first ability is definitely a must. Now, to get into the meat and potatoes of the deck in regards to what's our ratios and things like that, we run 4 Suro. Suros are 1-cost, 2k. On play, give it to one of your opponent's characters -2. It's really good if you're going first as the Gecko player, because you get to combo that with Gecko Moria as well. And then as far as our Searcher Brenu, we run 3 of. I think it's a good ratio. Honestly, you don't really need 4 of. I think you see plenty of it at 3. Obviously, this is your Navy Searcher. You get to on play search the top 3 of your deck for a Navy card and then trash the rest. Next, we're going to get into Lmaooo. Lmaooo is really good to combo off of the Gecko Moria 8-cost ability. It's a 2-cost, which fits into that dynamic of what you are playing as that second body with Brenu, and get that on play minus one of your opponent's characters 3. So it's really good. Now next we run 2 Kuzan. 2 is really pushing it, not gonna lie, I might cut this, but I think it's solid. It is on play, draw a card, and then when attacking, give one of your opponent's characters -4. So that's really good to set up going into yellow matchups where they start playing those big bodies, or green matchups if you feel as though they're going to play a drop beforehand, especially like some of those Yamato builds or Uda builds, things like that. Having that Kuzan is really good for removal of that. Next, we're going to get into some removal that will pair really well with that is Rob Lucci. We run 3 of Rob Lucci for sure. I think 4 of is too much and too greedy, and it kind of thins your trash, which doesn't help with the Gecko. So I think 3 is perfect for this, but if you don't know Rob Lucci's ability, on play, you return 3 from your trash to the bottom of your deck in any order, and then you KO a 2 or less and a 1 or less. So this pairs really well with Lmaooo if you're playing it off of Gecko. It pairs really well with Ice Age, Great Eruption. It's honestly your other popper aside from Absalon. So this is definitely, these are 2 are must for sure. Next, we do run the Rebecca and Hina package. So I think 2 Rebecca and 2 Hina are perfectly fine. Hina is really good if you are forced to go second as a Gecko player, because on your 6 Dawn turn, you get to play Hina minusing 4 of something and then still play possibly an Absalon using Gecko Moria's ability for swinging for 6 and paying for 2 Dawn. So that's really good if you're forced to go second. And then Hina is really good because you essentially get to get mostly anything from your trash, with the exception obviously of Gecko Moria and the events. But this is really good for cycling. It's really good to replenish hand of cards. So in this case, Rebecca is really good, mostly for the last card that we're playing, which is going to be for Sabo. So if you couldn't tell already, obviously there is no Borsalino here whatsoever, and that is for a couple of reasons. The biggest thing is Borsalino only protects itself, and it can still be popped off of your opponent's triggers, and it's honestly too susceptible to Izo and a lot of cards that focus on 4 or less. In this case, Sabo is really multifunctional. For one, it is beautiful in the mirror matchups where you have other Gecko Moria players trying to rid your board and gain control over board presence. Sabo is really good for not just protecting itself, but your entirety of your board. It's also good for cycling cards to fill up your trash, which helps with the Gecko Moria ability. It's also very good in regards to essentially being outside of that typical 4 or less for a lot of cards. So honestly, it's too good multifunctional in regards to what it can do, and it's just beautiful to have Rebecca be able to get that card in trash, because without it, truth be told, if you see Sabo in your trash as a Gecko player, it just ends up being bottom decked with one of your other abilities, because you can't get it out any other way. So this really just helps cycle it back into your hand, kind of the equivalent of like how Hogback does with the 8 cost Gecko. Outside of that, it's just a really, honestly, it's a good card. It's a phenomenal card. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the test match with my good friend Phil, who topped recently using Red Purple Law in the test regional in Virginia. Yeah, let's get into it. We're going to go ahead and get into the matchup. I am going first. That was my mulligan. So drew into the Sindri. Sindri is going to obviously mill 5 to feed that trash for Gecko. In this case, honestly, that was probably the worst mill I've ever had. Not gonna lie. Navy and Dressrosa and CP, nothing that can be played off of Gecko. So it's honestly already a rough start, but it's all good. We will recover from this. Then my friend Fail passes. He had nothing to start off on this turn too. I'm gonna get passed back to myself. Now in this case, I'm not gonna lie, I personally messed up. I swung with Gecko. Had no Thriller in trash and dropped Gecko, but I was lucky enough to get Perona from that. Otherwise, I would have had nothing to play off of the ability. Don't be like me, truth be told, but it is fine. My friend Phil is trashing from Perona's ability. He changed his mind from Zoro Joro and instead decided to trash the Beppo and take the life. Now it is passed back to him. He's most likely going to try to bottom deck my Perona. I'm not gonna lie, I can't really remember off the top of my head what he does. I believe he does a raise max to clear my board. Honestly, this is a rough matchup for Gecko until later game, solely because Red Purple Law likes to get rid of all the bodies as much as possible. But he swings for 5. I trash the Absol to feed my trash. He does the Gordon so that he can go ahead and bottom deck my Perona, and he plays the Zoro Joro. And he plays the Sachi Penguin to replenish his Dawn. So honestly, he's cooking pretty good. So in this case, because he has that Zoro Joro, I want to get rid of that because I don't want him to ramp a Dawn and get into more, basically a higher Dawn usage. That's kind of what you don't want Red Purple to do. And I know that only because, I mean, Phil taught me how to play the deck, for one. I give him credit for that. And for 2, I like playing the deck. I'm just waiting for the extra booster. But I Suro to Zoro Joro so that I can get it in range of the Absol. He already knows what's going to happen here. I'm going to swing for 7, trash 2, which was just another Rebecca and something else. I truthfully can't see it, but I'm going to say it's another CP. And I play the Absol, and I go ahead and bottom deck the Hogback as well as the Great Eruption. It was a Kuzan that was trashed, sorry. And in this case, I pass back to him, cycle my trash a little bit so I can understand just what is all in my trash. So I pass back to Phil. He tries to do the top deck of the century, and I believe he got it. Which is just crazy. Swings for 5 with Sachi and Penguin. I go ahead and take the life. I get one of those Sabos, and then I go ahead and discard with another 5k swing that he did to me. In this case, he's going to play Ein to ramp himself up a Dawn, and he's going to play the Otama onto the Absalon so that he can bottom deck that one as well, and play another Sachi and Penguin, Jesus, to ramp up. Yeah, he's doing a better job at feeling bored than I am right now, and it was a little frustrating playing that match, not gonna lie. Phil didn't top a regional for nothing, you know. So yeah, in this case, now we're trying to get back board presence here, and it's a little rough with the hand that we have. We have the Lucci, which is really good. We have the Perona, but most likely it's gonna be counter. We have the Sabo. So in this case, we do the 4-2 hard play, the Hogback to get back Gecko, which Phil looked at me kind of crazy when I did that. but that's because I wanted to fill my board with more bodies, which makes it harder for Law to get rid of them all. So got that, and then I went ahead and did the Gecko ability, trashing the Perona, and went ahead and milled 2 more, which is another Gecko and a Great Eruption. In this case, I believe I got the other hog back, which then replenished back that 2k back to hand. So it almost felt like I just played the body for free without having to really mill anything. And in this case, it was passed back to him. Now in here, it was kind of a interesting turn of events afterwards. Phil has quite a bit of Dawn, so he can do a lot of things ignorantly. He's gonna go ahead and swing simply with the Iron. I discard the Sabo. He swings with Sachi Penguin. I take the life. Got another hog back, and I went ahead and discarded that when he swung for 5 with Reputable Law. Then he played Zoro, and then he played Zoro again. And then guess what he's gonna do now? You wanna take a guess? He's gonna play Zoro again. This is why I say Phil is ignorant with that, because why? So he passes back to me. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this is rough. I either need to get rid of board or protect myself or swing for game. I think we all know with 1 card in his hand, I have to go for game, and that was the best option here, because playing the A drop would have done nothing to get rid of his full board of 3s and 4s. It'd be different if I had something that would minus the whole board, but I don't. So yeah, not expecting to see 3 Zoros go back to back to back to back. So I swung for 6 to check to see if he even had the 2k. He didn't. So then I swung for 7. It looked like I swung for 8, but then I decided, took it back and swung for 7. He took that life as well, that you're about to see right here in just a moment. And then I swung for game right here for I think 10, and he didn't have it. So yeah, good game. I felt truthfully.